Hey kiddos, happy Thanksgiving. We're so super close to break. And so what we're actually going to do this week is we are going to dig into some different scholastics passages that are going to shed some light. Oh my goodness. Sorry, kiddos. We're just going to keep rolling. We are going to read some articles this week that shed some light on the history of Thanksgiving. So we're going to read it from the Pilgrim side. We're going to read it from the Wampanoag side. We're going to read about 5 questions about Thanksgiving. We're going to get to watch some videos, and we're just going to really dig into this holiday, into its history, and just kind of have a deeper understanding of what it really is all about. And I actually really love, and that's why I like to do our colonies at the beginning of the year, because when we do start digging into Thanksgiving, we have all this really wonderful background knowledge about the colonies and what life looked like back then. So that's what we're going to do today. So what I want you to think about as we, oh no. There we go. What I want you to think about as we start our unit this week, I want you to think about, what do you already know about Thanksgiving? What are some things that you want to learn about Thanksgiving? I want you to take a second, maybe write those down, because at the end of the week, I'm going to ask that you go back to these thoughts and think about what you know, what you wanted to know, and see if maybe we changed some things. Maybe what we knew was false. Maybe we did learn some things that we wanted to learn. So take a second, answer these questions, and then when you're ready, come back to me. Okay? All right. So what we're going to work on this week is still QAR. These are some discussion questions that I am going to post on Google Classroom, and you're going to watch a video over life for the Pilgrims in Plymouth. And then you're going to be able to come back in and answer these questions. But what we're working on this week is we're still working on QAR, that question answer relationship. So our goal is the exact same from last week. We're just moving into a different passage with it. So we want to be able to analyze an informational text to answer critical thinking questions and justify with text evidence. We know analyze means to break it into parts and look at it closely. We know an informational text is a text that is full of information with the purpose of explaining things to us, to teach us, to inform us. We know critical thinking questions are questions that aren't just right there. They're questions that make us really dig deep and use our background knowledge or think at the passage as a whole. Now, we will answer some right there questions, because those are always important, but we want to dig deeper into the types of questions that we're answering this week. And then we know that justify means to prove it, and we're proving that with text evidence. And we know text evidence is word for word evidence from the text. So let's just review what we know about QAR. QAR is a strategy where we think about the question and we think about its relationship to the answer. And what I mean by that is, right now we haven't talked about on our own yet. We will get there when we start digging into some fiction passages, which we're hopefully going to start doing after Thanksgiving. But right now, what we really talk about are the right there questions, the author and me, and the think and search. Okay. So a right there question is the answer that's found right there in the text. Think about these: the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, the how, sometimes meaning of words, sometimes questions that it's any question that's going to require, I'm going to abbreviate this, text evidence, a question that makes you go look into a text feature. Any of those types of questions are right there, word for word. I can find it in the passage. There is no guesswork. There is no searching. If I can find it in the passage, I can answer the question. Okay. Think and search questions are a little bit more difficult. We're stepping up the difficulty here. The answer is still in the book, but I have to search about it and I have to think carefully. The author is usually dropping hints. So I want you to think about, this is where we lived for a long time. We lived here with text structure. So you see things like problem and solutions, cause and effects, compare and contrast. You can even think about sequencing, the order in which the author's doing things. And sometimes this is even going to be a main idea question, because sometimes authors are very literal with their main idea, and they will say this is what this is about, and give us the main idea. These are questions where you can find the answer in the text, but you have to think carefully, and this is the most important part right here, about the whole story. So you're thinking carefully about the whole story, okay? And even if it's not the whole story, it's at least like a whole section. So last week we saw questions about like what does trouble brewing refer to? That's you thinking about that whole section. So you're thinking about whole sections of a text or the whole text itself, depending on how big the text is. Okay. And then stepping it up into another level of difficulty are questions that I have to answer in my head. The author does not give me the answer. So I'm using the author and I'm also using myself. So here's the author. This is the text. This is me. Okay. So these are going to be things like inferences. These are going to be things like main idea and details. Okay. So the answer is found with our own thoughts. We know that this is with our background knowledge. And then we know that as well as in the text, and we know that these are text clues. Okay. Anything in the text that I can go in and underline and think about and go, oh, I think this means that, where we're making an inference. Okay. So I want you to think about this question right here. Why is this strategy important to us? Why is Miss Megan spending time on this strategy? Well, it's because if before I ever even answer the question, if I know what kind of question it is, my mind is already in gear to answer it. If I know that the question is a right there question, then I'm like, boom, I'm going back in the passage. I can find this answer. I know I can get this one right 100%. If I know it's a think and search question, then I know that I'm going to probably need to go back and reread a section or the whole passage and think about the question as I'm reading. If I know it's an author in me question, then I know that I probably need to zero in on some clues. And then I need to stop and think, what do I know about these clues? Okay. When I understand the question, I'm going to be so much better off when I go to answer it. Okay. And that's why we talk about this relationship. The question and the answer have a relationship. It's either a right there relationship, a think and search relationship, or an author and me relationship. Oh my goodness gracious. I don't, I'm so sorry. We're just going to keep rolling. Okay. So let's look at a model. Okay. So you're going to read an article on Google Classroom when we get done. Okay. When you read the article, you are going to see that it's about the pilgrims and their struggle to survive. That's what it's called. Once you read the article, you're going to answer some question answer relationship questions. This is also going to be true. You're going to read an article Wednesday or Thursday, I guess, for you, that's called We're Still Here. And it's about the Wampanoag. And then again, you're going to answer some QAR questions about it. So this model is going to work all week long. And all week long, we're going back to this question: what do we know about Thanksgiving? How is our knowledge going to change? How is it going to grow as we work through this week? Okay. So let me get I'm having some technology issues, kiddos. I'm so sorry. Okay. So here's my question. It says, who sailed aboard the Mayflower? What was their main goal? Freeze. Before I answer this question, this is where that QAR comes into play. I need to know what type of question is this. Is it a right there question, a think and search question, or an author and me question? Okay, so let's think. I'm having so many issues. I'm so sorry. Okay, kiddos. So what type of question is this? Who sailed aboard the Mayflower? Okay, go back to our QAR chart. Anytime I see that who, I'm probably working right there close to a right there answer. But there's a second question here that says, what was their main goal? Well, that isn't word for word in the passage. I'm going to have to do a little bit of searching and thinking carefully. Okay. So I'm calling this a think and search question. Okay. So let's go into the passage so that we can answer this. That's what your step 2 is, right? Read the question, think about the type of question. Okay. And then you're ready to answer the question. Okay. Who sailed aboard the Mayflower? That's a right there question, right? But this second one, what was their main goal? I'm really going to have to kind of think and search through that one. So let's pull up our passage. Okay, this is what your passage is going to look like this week. When I read through right here, through Rough Voyage, which again, remember, think and search is where you have to go through a whole section or the whole text. I'm going to be able to answer both questions. It says the pilgrims are made up of 2 groups. The separatists sought religious freedom. The others were adventurers looking to start a new life. Their journey would be one for the history books and one that almost ended in disaster. Okay, so I know now who. Okay, it was the separatists. Okay, and then some adventurers. So I'm going to go into go into my thing, and I'm going to restate my question: who sailed aboard the Mayflower? The sep. I'm gonna spell this right. Oh, I spelled it. Nope, didn't. Knew it. The separatists and those seeking adventure are who sailed on the Mayflower. Okay, so I kind of restated different, but sometimes these questions are hard. So I'm still saying who sailed on the Mayflower. I'm still pulling that in. I'm just putting it at the end of my answer rather than at the beginning. So now I'm ready to answer this question of what was their main goal. Okay, here we go. The original plan was to take two ships, the Mayflower and the Speedwell. The travelers hoped it to arrive in North America while the weather was still warm. The ship set sail in August but turned back when the Speedwell sprang a leak. That left the Pilgrims with one ship and a big delay. They finally set sail on September 6th, 1620. The 102 passengers, including nearly 30 kids, crammed together below deck. This is one of the first colonies that had kiddos in it, just a cool side note. But the Mayflower was built for cargo, not people. The ceilings were so low that most couldn't stand. Many people slept on damp, straw filled mattresses. Some got seasick. As the weeks dragged on, food and water ran low. During the 3,200-mile voyage, two people died. On November 11th, after 2 terrible months at sea, the ship arrived at Cape Cod in what is now Massachusetts. Okay, so it never said their goal was, right? I'm having to do a little bit of thinking. And I could almost call this an author in me because I'm having to pull some clues, use my background knowledge about what I know about why people went to the colonies, and make an inference. But because I was kind of doing an inference and a right there, I kind of met in the middle with think and search. So look right here. The separatists sought religious freedom. The others were adventurers looking to start a new life. So what was their main goal? Well, they wanted to start a new colony. Okay. Their goal was to start a new colony where there was religious freedom and adventure. Okay, so this week, kiddos, unless I say cite evidence, I'm not actually going to have you pull any evidence in. Okay, and it's just for time's sake. I know this is a lot for you to do, but I do ask that you answer the question completely. Okay, so here you go. So I've got my answer to both questions. Okay, the separatists and those seeking adventurers are who sailed on the Mayflower. Their goal was to start a new colony where there was religious freedom and adventure. Did I answer that completely? Yeah, and it wasn't a right there question. I had to do a little bit of thinking. I had to do a little bit of searching. Okay. So let's look here. What did I do to help me answer this question? Well, I went back in my passage. I read the question, thought about what type of question it was, and then that helped me when I knew it was time to go look for the answer, right? So this was our goal. It says I will be able to analyze an informational text to answer critical thinking questions and justify with text evidence. Did I do that? Yeah, I definitely think I did. Okay, so this week, kiddos, your goal is going to be to go in and answer these types of questions on your own. Okay, so each day you're going to have a couple different questions. Today and tomorrow's are going to be over that article right there, Struggle to Survive. The next 2 days are going to be over an article called We're Still Here about the Wampanoags. Those were the Native Americans that were there when the Pilgrims first arrived. And all along, I want you really thinking through what type of question is this? What do I need you to answer the question and then go and answer it? Don't just automatically try to answer it because that's sometimes where we miss a step. So, really take a step back, really think about your question, think about what you're going to be asked to do to solve the question, and then you're ready to go answer. All right, kiddos, thanks so much for watching with me today. If you have any questions as you work this week, please reach out and let me know.